This is the brain scan of a 25-year-old male in the midst of experiencing a fear of failure. Those bright lights that you see in the parietal lobes, the side of the brain there, that's the brain's active response to fear of failure, which is incredible enough that they were able to map it for the first time. But the really incredible part is look to the far right side of this diagram in the frontal lobe of the brain where it's dark and shut down. That's the part of our brain responsible for risk-taking, exploration, and discovery. Said another way, fear of failure literally shuts down the part of our brain most responsible for all the things that help us to grow, for all the things that inspire us and help us maintain our sense of momentum and inspiration moving forward. No wonder we cave in, we give in to fear of failure so often. We're wired to do so. But you can push back on this. For you or for someone you know and love, someone you work with that suffers from fear of failure, you can push back and control this dynamic that you see here on this slide. How? By doing two things when it comes to fear of failure. You got to name it and you got to reframe it. Here's what I mean by this. First of all, name it, because here's the truth. When you say you have a fear of failure, you're not actually afraid of the failure itself. You're afraid of something associated with that failure. This is why you ask yourself, what am I really afraid of? Whatever that is, then say it out loud. Name it. Don't let fear of failure sit like a general aura, a general gestalt that just washes over you and controls too much of your behavior and your thought patterns. Name it, name it. Say what you're afraid of. When you do, it begins to lose its power over you. Then it has a name and you can break it down into small pieces and start to combat it, to overcome it. And by the way, please be extra careful. If when you ask yourself, what am I really afraid of? If the answer is feeling shame, please be extra careful. You see, because shame is the most toxic of emotions. With shame, instead of feeling bad about our actions, which is guilt, or about our efforts, which is regret, shame makes us feel bad about who we are. Shame dupes us into forgetting that we're infallible as human beings, that we're all put on this earth to make mistakes, to learn and to grow from that, to learn from failures, to become a better version of ourselves, to be unafraid to take risks, to reignite and rekindle our momentum. And shame takes all of that away from us. Don't let it do that to you. Name your fear first. Then you can reframe it. That's the second powerful strategy to push back against your fear of failure. Reframe it. You see, because you have to remember, fear of failure engages our brain in the wrong conversation. But you have the power to change that, to reframe how you think of it for you or for someone you know or love that suffers from fear of failure. Let me give you a few examples. For example, what if I were to tell you that there's actually only 3 ways to fail? When you quit, when you don't improve, or when you never try. What if I were to tell you that that pit that you feel in your stomach before you're about to try something that makes you nervous, that pit's not there to scare you. That pit's there to tell you that something must be worth it or you'd be feeling nothing. What if I were to tell you that failure is never a person, it's only an event, a point in time? I wish I had $1 for every time I was at P&G. And a coachee came up to me, convinced that some blown meeting in front of their GM, some bad sales result, some bad share result from some market was a harbinger of future things to come, that they had become their mistake. No, you are bigger than any mistake. Failure is never a person. It is only an event, a point in time. One last reframe, and folks, I could do this all day. What if I were to tell you that failure doesn't happen to you? It happens for you. I'd like to share a story with you now, if I may, that's it's very personal. And it's not an easy one to share, so I'm going to role model vulnerability for you here now. And, let's see how it goes. Here we go.